across 3 centuries, one family wielded more financial power than most nations, turning information into gold and wars into profit. From a cramped ghetto where they couldn't even own land, they rose to bankroll empires and literally changed the course of history. Here's what it was really like to build the world's most powerful banking dynasty. Quick thing before we start, if you actually listen to these regularly, hit like or subscribe. I always wonder where everyone's at, so comment your city and what time it is. Weird to think some of you are having breakfast in London while I'm recording this at night here in the States. Alright, let's head back to 1760s Frankfurt, Germany. Trust me, it's going to be quite a ride. But first, get comfortable. Seriously, adjust those pillows, pull up that blanket, because where we're going, you're going to want to be cozy. Picture this, you're waking up in the Frankfurt Jewish ghetto. Not like your soft mattress right now, you're on a thin straw pallet that's seen better days, probably better years actually, and the first thing that hits you isn't the light creeping through the shutters, it's the smell. The alley outside your window is basically an open-air second-hand market mixed with a dumpster. Shops have spilled heaps of old clothes and soiled household goods into the narrow streets. The smell of unwashed wool, rotting vegetables, and too many people crammed into too little space. It's thick. You can taste it. Every morning starts like this. Your name is Mayer Amschel Rothschild, though nobody's calling you a banking titan yet. Right now, you're just another guy trying to make it in a system designed to keep you down. Frankfurt Jews can't own land, can't farm, can't work in handicrafts, can't even deal in the good stuff like weapons, silk, or fresh fruit. Those are all off limits, so you do what your family does. You trade textiles, and you hate it. Not the work itself, really. It's the profit margins. They're terrible. You're moving bales of fabric that weigh more than you do, dealing with merchants who look down on you, and at the end of the day, you've made maybe enough to keep the lights on and food on the table. Maybe. This isn't the path to wealth. This is the path to doing the same thing your whole life and dying in the same cramped ghetto where you were born. There has to be a better way. You know there is. You've seen the Christian merchants, the ones who can trade in luxury goods, the ones who have connections to the courts and the nobles. They're not smarter than you. They just have access, and access, you're starting to realize, is everything. So you pivot, you start dealing in gold coins and antiques. Now we're talking. The profit margins here, way better. A rare coin can fetch 10 times what you paid for it if you find the right buyer. An antique from the right period, even more. You've got an eye for this stuff. You can spot a fake from across the room. You know value when you see it. And here's the thing, when you're dealing in gold coins, you start meeting a different class of people, not the textile merchants haggling over pennies, real money, old money, noble money. One day, you catch a break that changes everything. You become a court agent for Prince William of Hesse-Kassel. Think of a court agent as basically an 18th century stockbroker, except instead of stocks you're dealing in gold coins, art and whatever else the rich folks want to buy. Prince William has money, stupid amounts of money, the kind of wealth that makes your head spin when you start calculating the numbers. Here's how it works. Prince William wants to buy some gold coins for his collection. He's not going to go down to the market himself. That's beneath him. So he tells you to go get them. You're his guy, his agent, his broker. And this is where you have a brilliant, slightly shady, absolutely genius idea. You take the prince's money, sure, but first you go to the market and buy the coins yourself using borrowed money. Then you turn around and sell those same coins to Prince William. You're acting as both the buyer and the seller, the middleman on both ends of the deal. This is called front running, and it's about as legal as you'd expect, which is to say not very, but nobody's checking, nobody cares. The prince gets his coins, you get paid twice. First, you collect your 8% commission fee for being his agent. That's the legitimate money, the money everyone can see. But second, and this is the beautiful part, you make money on the spread. You bought the coins for one price, sold them to the prince for another. The difference? Pure profit. And the prince has no idea you're doing this because you're the one telling him what the market price is. You're making money coming and going on every single transaction. The commission alone would be nice, but the front running, that's where the real wealth is building. And you do this over and over, year after year. Every time Prince William wants gold coins or art or anything really, you're running the same play. Buy it first with borrowed money, sell it to him at a markup, collect your commission on top. You're profiting twice on every deal, and the money is piling up faster than you ever imagined back when you were hauling textile bales through the ghetto. By 1782, you're not just comfortable, you're rich, really rich, so rich that Prince William makes you his official investment manager. Think about that for a second. The Jewish guy from the ghetto who couldn't legally own land is now managing the investment portfolio of one of the wealthiest princes in Germany. The kid who was trading second-hand clothes in the smelly alley is now being trusted with millions. But here's the thing about you, Mayor. It's never enough. That's not greed talking. Well, maybe it is a little, but it's more than that. You're thinking long-term, generational. You don't just want to be rich. You want to create something that lasts, a legacy, a dynasty, the kind of family name that echoes through history. Being a trader, even a wildly successful one, has a ceiling. There's only so much you can do, only so much wealth you can accumulate. But banking is where the real power lives. Banks don't just make money, they create it, they move it, they control the flow of capital across cities, countries, continents. Banks finance wars and rebuild nations. Banks are how nobility becomes obsolete and money becomes the only nobility that matters. So you become a bank, not overnight. It's a process. You're building relationships, establishing credit, proving you can be trusted with other people's money. Slowly, methodically, you transform from Mayor the coin dealer to Mayor the banker. And by the close of the 1700s, you're the richest man in Frankfurt. But Frankfurt is still a ghetto. It's still Germany. It's still limited. You're the biggest fish in a very small pond, and you know it. You've hit the ceiling of what's possible here. To really build something permanent, something that survives you, you need to think bigger, way bigger. You've got 5 sons, 5 smart, ambitious, hungry sons who've watched you build this empire from nothing, and you've got a plan for them. A crazy, audacious, borderline insane plan that requires them to leave home and spread across Europe. You're going to send 4 of them to the great capital cities, Vienna, Naples, Paris, and the crown jewel, the centre of the financial universe, London. One son stays with you in Frankfurt to maintain the home base, but the other 4, they're your ambassadors, your outposts, your network. Each one will establish their own banking house in their city, but they won't compete with each other. They'll work together, they'll share information, they'll move money between cities faster than anyone else can. They'll create a financial spiderweb across Europe with the Rothschild family sitting at the centre of every strand. Your 3rd son, Nathan, is the one you're sending to London, and Nathan is special. He's got your business sense, but with an edge. He's fierce, ambitious, quick to take offence, and even quicker to strike back. Some people are going to love him. Most are going to hate him. You don't care. What matters is that he's capable, more than capable. He might even be better at this than you are. You give him £20,000. In today's money, that's serious capital, multiple millions. It's a fortune, but you expect him to turn it into 10 fortunes, and if anyone can do it, it's Nathan. London in the early 1800s is the centre of everything. Great Britain is a global superpower. The British Navy rules the seas. Nobody even comes close. The Industrial Revolution is transforming the economy. Britain is becoming the world's factory. Goods are being manufactured faster and cheaper than ever before. The financial sector, centred in London, is robust and growing. The Bank of England has been around since 1694, and London has become the beating heart of global finance. If you want to play in the big leagues, you go to London, and that's exactly where Nathan is headed. The pressure on Nathan is immense. He's not just representing himself, he's representing the family, the Rothschild name, your life's work, everything you've built. He can feel the weight of it. Every decision he makes, every deal he closes or fumbles, reflects on the family, on you, on the legacy you're trying to create. And Nathan does not do well with pressure from others, but pressure on himself? That's different. That drives him. That makes him dangerous. He arrives in London with his £20,000 and immediately starts looking for opportunities. The London textile industry is booming. Small workshops and factories are popping up everywhere, producing cotton, silk, wool, everything. There's money to be made here, but the competition is fierce. Everyone's trying to grab a piece. Nathan sees the game differently. Most merchants are focused on one part of the supply chain. You've got the guys who source raw materials, the guys who dye the fabrics, the guys who manufacture the finished goods. Everyone's specialized. Everyone's making one profit. Nathan wants 3 profits. He goes to the manufacturers with a proposal. He'll supply them with both the raw materials and the dye. They just handle the manufacturing and give him the finished goods. He's essentially vertical integration before that term even exists. He controls 3 steps of the process, which means he captures 3 separate profit margins. The manufacturers love it because it simplifies their lives. They don't have to source materials or dyes, they just manufacture. Nathan loves it because he's making money at every stage. He's buying raw materials cheap, selling them to manufacturers at a markup, buying dyes cheap, selling those at a markup, then buying the finished manufactured goods and selling those to retailers. 3 profits instead of 1. According to Nathan's own account, and yeah, he's probably exaggerating a bit because that's what successful people do, he turned that £20,000 into £60,000 in just a few years, triple his money. That's the kind of return that makes investors weep with joy. But Nathan's not satisfied with legitimate business alone. Why would he be? He learned from you. He knows the real money is in the grey areas, the places where rules are more like suggestions. He starts smuggling textiles, precious metals, anything that can be moved quietly and sold for profit. Smuggling in the early 1800s is risky but hugely profitable. The British government has tariffs and taxes on imports, especially during the Napoleonic Wars when they're trying to control trade with continental Europe. But if you can get goods past the customs officials, you can sell them for way more than they cost. Nathan develops a reputation. People know him as the guy who can get goods to the continent when nobody else can. Superior management, they call it. Good judgment, they say. Really, it's just being willing to take risks that other merchants won't, and having the connections to make those risks pay off. By 1808, Nathan's business in London is reporting sales of £800,000. That's massive. In just a few years, he's gone from a Frankfurt banker's son with £20,000 to a major player in London's financial scene. The money is rolling in, the reputation is building. He's ready for the next step. Time to become a bank. Just like his father, because trading textiles, even smuggling them, has a ceiling. Banking has no ceiling. The sky's not even the limit. The limit is how much wealth exists in the world, and in the early 1800s, that's growing every day. Nathan's plan is to build his bank bigger than his father's. He wants the London Rothschild Bank to be the flagship, the crown jewel, the one that all the others look to. And given that London is the financial capital of the world, it's not a crazy ambition. Back in Frankfurt, you're watching this unfold with pride. Your plan is working. Nathan's thriving in London. Your other sons are establishing themselves in their cities. The network is forming. The web is being woven. Everything you dreamed of is starting to become real. But you're getting old. Your health is deteriorating. You can feel it. The energy that used to carry you through 14-hour days is fading. Your body is reminding you that you're mortal, that time is running out, that everything you've built needs to survive without you. By 1812, you know the end is coming soon. You gather your sons and give them the most important lesson, the one that matters more than any business advice, more than any financial strategy. Family unity comes first, above all else, always. You've seen what happens to family businesses when the next generation fights over control. They splinter, they collapse, they disappear, the wealth gets divided and diluted until there's nothing left. You will not let that happen to the Rothschild name. Your sons need to work together, support each other, put the family above their individual ambitions. The banking houses in different cities can't compete. They have to cooperate, share information, move money between them seamlessly, act as one entity, even though they're separated by hundreds of miles. This is the foundation. This is what will make the Rothschild dynasty last. Not the money, not the banking skills, the family bond, the unbreakable commitment to each other. And your sons listen. They take it to heart. They promise, because they've seen what you've built from nothing. They know the value of what you're giving them. They understand the responsibility. You die knowing your legacy is in good hands. Your sons will honour your memory by honouring each other. The House of Rothschild will not just survive, it will thrive, it will grow, it will become something even greater than you imagined. And they're about to get the opportunity of a lifetime to prove it, because Europe is entering an age of wars, big ones, bloody ones, expensive ones, the kind of wars that bankrupt nations and create opportunities for those with capital and courage. The 18th century wars were limited, professional armies fighting for limited objectives. When things got too expensive or too bloody, people sat down and negotiated, made peace, redrew some borders, and went home. The 19th century wars are different. They're ideological, they're total. They're the kind of conflicts that don't end in negotiation. They end when one side can't fight anymore, and fighting costs money, lots and lots of money. Nations need to finance these wars. They need gold, weapons, supplies, and credit, and the Rothschild banking houses, now spread across Europe's major cities, are perfectly positioned to provide all of it, for a price, obviously, a very good price. By 1814, Britain has been at war with Napoleon for what feels like forever. The Duke of Wellington is winning battle after battle, pushing Napoleon's forces back toward France. This is it, the big push, the one that could end the war. Wellington plans to take the fight directly to French soil. There's just one problem, a big, expensive, logistical nightmare of a problem. Wellington needs French coins, not British pounds. French coins, lots of them. See, when you're running a military campaign in enemy territory, you can't just show up and expect people to accept your money. The French aren't taking British pounds. Why would they? They're at war with Britain. You need local currency to buy supplies, pay informants, keep the army moving. Without French coins, Wellington's invasion is dead in the water. The British government is freaking out. Wellington's campaign is already stretching them thin financially. They've been at war for years. The Treasury is feeling it, and now they need to somehow acquire massive amounts of French currency during a war with France. It's like asking for ice in the desert. Technically possible, but good luck. Nathan Rothschild hears about this problem and sees dollar signs, or pound signs technically. This is the opportunity he's been waiting for, the kind of deal that doesn't just make you rich, it makes you legendary. It establishes you as the guy who saved Britain's war effort, the banker who delivered when governments couldn't. But there's a catch. Actually, there are several catches. First, you need to acquire huge amounts of gold. Then you need to convert that gold into French coins. Then you need to somehow transport those coins through a war zone to Wellington's army in France. Oh, and you need to do all of this faster than the British government can figure out an alternative solution, because if they find another way, your opportunity evaporates. Most people would look at this situation and say it's impossible. Too many moving parts, too much risk, too complicated. Nathan looks at it and thinks, I got this. Here's what Nathan does. The East India Company, which is basically running half of Asia for Britain at this point, has £800,000 worth of gold sitting around. They want to sell it. Nathan shows up at the sale and buys all of it. Every single ounce, the entire lot. He just drops the cash and walks away with enough gold to sink a ship. Multiple ships, actually. Now he's got the gold. But that's just step one. He needs to convert this into French coins and get it to Wellington. The British government is panicking because they have no idea how to move this amount of currency through a war zone. You can't just load it onto a ship and hope for the best. The French Navy might intercept it. Pirates might grab it. It could sink in a storm. There are so many ways this could go wrong. Nathan tells them he'll handle everything. The acquisition, the conversion, the transportation, the whole operation. He's got the connections. He's got the smuggling routes he's been building for years. He's got people in France who can move goods quietly. This is exactly the kind of grey area business he's been perfecting. The British government doesn't really have a choice. They need this done, and they need it done now. So they agree. Nathan gets to work. He moves the gold across Europe using his network. Remember those banking houses his father set up in different cities? Vienna, Naples, Paris, Frankfurt, London. They're all connected. They all work together. Nathan can move money through this network faster than anyone else, because he's not dealing with random banks who don't trust each other. He's dealing with his brothers, his family, people he knows will deliver. The gold gets converted to French coins. The coins get smuggled into France through routes Nathan's people have been using for years, and it all arrives exactly where Wellington needs it, exactly when he needs it. The campaign moves forward. Wellington pushes into France. The war effort doesn't collapse due to lack of funds. Nathan later describes this as the best business I ever did, and he's not exaggerating. This deal establishes the Rothschild name at the highest levels of British power. The government now knows that when they have an impossible financial problem, the Rothschilds can solve it. That's worth more than the profit from this one deal. That's access, that's influence, that's power. And the profit isn't bad either. The commission alone is huge, but Nathan also makes money on the currency conversion, on the transportation, on managing the whole operation. He's getting paid at every step, just like he learned from his father. Europe by the mid-1800s has turned into a war zone. Countries are fighting constantly, and every war needs money. Starting a war, you need money. Losing a war, you usually have to pay the winner. The foreign exchange market becomes critical because nations need to move money across borders, convert currencies, finance operations in enemy territory. For the Rothschild banking houses, this is a gold mine, literally. They've got banks in all the major cities. They can facilitate currency exchanges between countries that are actively at war with each other. They charge high fees, sometimes as much as 8%, because they're providing a service nobody else can match. They've got the network, they've got the trust, they've got the speed. But the commission fees are honestly just a small part of their income. The real money, the absolutely insane money, comes from currency speculation, and this is where the Rothschild information network becomes a weapon. Think about how news travelled in the 1800s. slowly, by horse, by ship, by messenger, on foot. If something happened in Paris, it might take days or even weeks for London to hear about it. And in that time gap, in that information delay, fortunes could be made or lost. The Rothschilds understand that in finance, information is everything and speed is king. So they build the fastest private communication network in Europe. They use private carriers. They use well-trained horses that can ride day and night. They even use carrier pigeons for urgent messages. Pigeons are way faster than horses for short distances, and the Rothschilds breed and train them specifically for financial intelligence. Here's how this works. Let's say there's a major battle. Napoleon wins, or Wellington wins, or somebody important dies, or a government collapses. Whatever the news is, it moves through normal channels slowly. But the Rothschild network hears about it first. Sometimes hours ahead of everyone else, sometimes a full day ahead. And in that window, before the market reacts, before anyone else knows what happened, they can buy or sell currencies. If they know France is about to win a major battle, they buy French bonds before the price goes up. If they know Britain just suffered a defeat, they sell British currency before it drops. They're always one step ahead, always trading on information nobody else has yet. This is insider trading before insider trading even has a name. It's legal because there are basically no financial regulations. It's just smart business. Ruthless, maybe. Unfair, definitely. But legal and wildly profitable. The profits from currency speculation absolutely dwarf everything else. The commission fees are nice, the loan interest is solid, but speculation, that's where the real wealth gets built. Nathan's making more money in a single day of trading than most people see in their entire lives. The London house's profits keep rolling in, year after year, deal after deal. Nathan's reputation grows. He's no longer just the son of a Frankfurt banker. He's not even just a successful London merchant. He's the banker, the guy kings and governments come to when they need money. The man who can move markets with a single decision. Nathan becomes the richest man in the world. Not in London, not in Britain. In the world. The wealth is almost incomprehensible. He's got more money than some countries have in their entire treasuries. And he's still in his 50s, still young enough to enjoy it, still hungry enough to want more. But even the richest man in the world can't defeat the one enemy that eventually comes for everyone. July 28th, 1836. Nathan Rothschild wakes up feeling wrong. Something's off. He's been feeling sick for a while, but this is different. Worse. His body is shutting down and he knows it. The doctors are called, but there's not much they can do. Medicine in 1836 is basically guesswork mixed with prayer. Nathan dies at age 58, which is weird because the Rothschild family is known for living long lives. His mother is still alive and she's going to live past 90, but Nathan's gone, the richest man in the world, dead before 60. The London Times actually gets emotional about it, which for a British newspaper is like seeing a unicorn. They write that Nathan's death is one of the most important events for the city and perhaps for Europe in a long time. No operations comparable to his have existed in Europe to this time. Think about that. A banker dies and it's treated like a head of state passing. That's the level of influence Nathan had built. He wasn't just rich, he was a force of nature. His decisions moved markets. His loans could win or lose wars. His death is genuinely a big deal for the entire European economy. The markets react immediately. British bonds fluctuate, currency traders panic. Everyone's asking the same question. What happens to the House of Rothschild now? Is this the end? Will the brothers fight over control? Will the whole empire collapse without Nathan holding it together? But here's the thing, Mayor Amschel's last lesson to his sons, that family unity above all else. They took it seriously. Nathan might be gone, but the system he helped build doesn't need one man. The banking houses are set up to work together. The network still functions. The information still flows. The money still moves. Nathan's younger brother James, running the Paris bank, steps up as the de facto leader, and James is not intimidated by following Nathan. If anything, he sees it as his chance to prove he's just as capable, maybe more capable. James is different from Nathan. He had better schooling. He's more refined, more comfortable in aristocratic circles. Nathan was the scrappy fighter who built the London Empire through sheer force of will. James is the strategic thinker who can play the long game. Where Nathan saw opportunities and grabbed them, James sees trends and positions himself ahead of them. But taking over as head of the family during this moment, with Nathan's death still fresh, the pressure is massive. The banking world is watching, competitors are circling, everyone wants to know if the Rothschilds can maintain their dominance, or if Nathan was the secret source and now it's over. James looks at the situation and realizes something. Government bonds and war financing are still profitable, sure, but the market is getting saturated. More banks are getting into the game. The competition is eating away at profit margins. The deals that made Nathan's fortune aren't as lucrative anymore because everyone's doing them now. James needs a new edge, a new industry, something the Rothschilds can dominate before everyone else catches on. He needs to think bigger than just financing wars. Wars end, industries last forever. He looks at what's happening across Europe and sees the future rolling toward him on iron rails, railroads. They're expanding fast. England built the Stockton-Darlington line in 1825, and suddenly everyone realizes this is going to change everything. Transportation, trade, industrial growth. Railroads are connecting cities that used to be days apart. They're making goods cheaper to move. They're opening up markets that were previously too remote to reach. This is it. This is the next big thing, and James wants the Rothschilds to own as much of it as possible. Throughout the 1840s, the Rothschild banks provide financing for railroad ventures across Europe. They're not just lending money, they're taking equity positions, they're getting involved in the construction, they're trading railroad stocks and bonds. Every time a new line gets built, the Rothschilds are making money from the financing, from the trading, from the increased value of their holdings. And James is clever about risk management. He uses other people's money whenever possible. He creates syndicates, basically groups of investors who pool their capital for big projects. The Rothschilds put in some money, but most of the risk is spread across the syndicate. If the project succeeds, the Rothschilds make huge returns on relatively small investments. If it fails, they're not wiped out. This is sophisticated financial engineering. Most bankers are still doing straightforward lending. James is creating complex financial structures that maximize profit while minimizing risk. He's thinking 3 moves ahead. The railroad boom makes the Rothschilds even richer. The wealth keeps compounding. But here's something you need to understand about this period. While the Rothschilds and other banking families are accumulating unbelievable fortunes, regular people are struggling. The income gap between rich and poor is massive. The industrialists are making money as fast as possible by any means necessary, and worker conditions are brutal. 16-hour days in factories, child labor, poverty wages, no safety regulations. The average person looks at families like the Rothschilds and sees the face of everything wrong with the system. The bankers are financing the governments and the industries that are grinding workers into dust. The resentment is building, and it's about to explode. By the late 1840s, France is a powder keg. The government is deep in debt from losing wars. The economy is on the edge. The French people are angry at the government and angry at the financiers who keep the government afloat. They're looking for someone to blame, and wealthy Jewish bankers make an easy target. Within days, revolution breaks out. The French banking system nearly collapses, and the Rothschild Bank in France is right in the crosshairs. James is watching his life's work, his family's legacy, everything his father built, teeter on the edge of complete destruction. Angry mobs could storm the bank. The government could seize assets. Everything could disappear overnight. James needs help. Fast. He turns to his nephew in London, Lionel, Nathan's son, the next generation of Rothschilds, and this is the moment where family unity either saves them or they learn that lesson was just pretty words. Lionel looks at the situation. Bailing out the Paris bank is risky, really risky. If France collapses completely, the London bank could lose massive amounts of money. It would be safer to cut losses and let Paris handle its own problems. That's what any rational banker would do. But Lionel remembers his grandfather's words. Family unity above all else. The Rothschild banks don't compete. They don't abandon each other. They work together or they fail together. That's the deal. That's the foundation everything is built on. Lionel arranges a loan. A big one. Enough to stabilise the Paris bank and keep it from going under. It's his money, his bank's reserves, his risk. But he does it anyway, because that's what family means. That's what being a Rothschild means. The Paris bank survives. The revolution eventually calms down. The Rothschild name takes a hit, but they're still standing, still operating, still powerful. The family bond held when it mattered most. Lionel doesn't stop at just saving his uncle's bank. He's got bigger plans. Way bigger. He starts thinking about something that seems impossible for a Jewish banker in the mid-1800s. He wants to enter government. Not as an advisor behind the scenes, not as a financier who whispers in politicians' ears. He wants an actual seat in Parliament. He wants to be in the room where decisions get made. And this is wild because no Jew has ever held a seat in the British House of Commons. Ever. The system isn't designed to let people like him in. But Lionel's logic is simple. If he wants to help eliminate prejudice against his people, the best way to do it is from inside the power structure. You can't change a system by staying outside it. You have to get in there and break it open from within. Plus, he's got money. Lots of money. And in politics, money talks louder than anything else. Lionel starts buying up newspapers and funding media campaigns. He's basically running a modern political operation, except it's 1847 and nobody's really doing this yet. He's buying influence, shaping public opinion, getting his name out there. By this point, most of the legal restrictions on British Jews have been lifted. It's not like it was when his grandfather was stuck in the Frankfurt ghetto. Things have changed. Progress has happened. The Commons even passed a bill saying a Jewish person could hold a seat. So technically, legally, Lionel can run for office. In August 1847, he mounts the hustings as a Liberal candidate for the City of London. That's a big deal. The City of London is the financial district. It's the heart of British commerce. If you're going to represent anyone, these are the people who matter for a banker. And Lionel wins. He actually wins the election. People vote for him. The Jewish banker from the Rothschild family just got elected to Parliament. Except there's a problem. A big, stupid, bureaucratic problem that's about to turn this victory into a years-long fight. To officially take his seat, Lionel has to swear an oath. Standard procedure. Everyone does it, but the oath requires you to swear on the Holy Scriptures, meaning the New Testament, the Christian Bible, and Lionel looks at this requirement and basically says, yeah, no, not happening. He's Jewish. He's not swearing on Christian scripture. It violates everything he believes. He tells them he'll swear on the Old Testament, the Torah. That's his holy book. That's what matters to him. Take it or leave it. The Commons freaks out. This has never happened before. Nobody's ever challenged the oath. The whole system is built on Christian assumptions. The idea that someone might want to swear on different scripture just never occurred to anyone. What do we do? Can we even allow this? Is this legal? The debates go on for years. Literally years. But Lionel doesn't back down. He keeps showing up, keeps making his case, keeps pushing, and eventually, finally, after way too long, they cave. They change the rules. Lionel gets to swear on the Old Testament and take his seat in Parliament. This is monumental for the House of Rothschild. They're not just bankers anymore. They're not just rich. They're in government. They've got political power to go with their financial power. That's a combination that makes them nearly untouchable. As James gets older in Paris, Lionel gradually takes over as the family's patriarch. He's the one everyone looks to for decisions. He's the one coordinating between the banking houses. He's running the show, and he thinks the Rothschilds are invincible. They've survived revolutions. They've grown richer through wars. They've broken into politics. What could possibly challenge them now? What he doesn't see coming is a rival, a new banking empire rising in the background, one that's studying everything the Rothschilds do and learning from it, one that's about to make a move so bold it'll shock everyone. Meet Junius Morgan, American banker working for a British merchant banking firm called George Peabody and Company. When Peabody retires in 1864, Junius takes over the whole operation, and Junius is smart, really smart. He's got that serious, business-like presence that old financiers love. He's calm, controlled, never shows emotion. The kind of guy who makes you trust him with your money just by looking at him. Junius understands that to play with the big boys, to compete with families like the Rothschilds, he needs to get into government financing. And in the 1860s, nothing creates more financing opportunities than wars. So he starts watching Europe, waiting for the right conflict, the right opportunity, the one that everyone else will pass on because it looks too risky. And in 1867, he sees the tension building. France wants to buy Luxembourg from the Netherlands. Seems straightforward enough, but Prussia, the rising German power, says absolutely not. They oppose the move. Prussia is led by Otto von Bismarck, and Bismarck is not someone you want to mess with. Bismarck's whole thing is creating a unified German empire under Prussian leadership. He's a wild man with a brilliant mind. Picture someone who gets into drunken brawls and fencing duels to prove his manliness, but who also has the strategic genius to manipulate all of Europe into doing what he wants. He's been described as a raging bull, dangerous, unpredictable, smart enough to be terrifying. The tension keeps building. France and Prussia are headed for war. Everyone can see it coming. And on July 19th, 1870, Napoleon III makes it official. France declares war on Prussia, which is exactly what Bismarck wanted. He's been manoeuvring for this. A war will let him unify the German states under Prussia's banner. It's all going according to his plan. Now here's where it gets interesting. The Rothschilds have been financing wars for like a century at this point. They're the go-to bankers for governments that need money for military campaigns. France should be an obvious client. They need loans, they need weapons, they need financing for the whole war effort. But the Rothschilds take one look at this situation and say, no, they won't lend to France, not a single franc. And the reason is simple. They've seen enough wars to know who's going to win. They can read the situation. France is walking into a meat grinder. Bismarck is smarter, Prussia is stronger, the German military is better organized. France is going to lose badly, and the Rothschilds don't finance losing sides. That's just throwing money away. Other major banking houses, like Baring Brothers, also pass. Nobody wants to touch this loan. It's too risky. France is going to get crushed and then they won't be able to pay back the money. Basic risk assessment, smart banking, protect your capital. Junius Morgan looks at this exact same situation and sees something completely different. He's asking a different question, not can France win, but can France pay back a loan? And here's his calculation. Yeah, France is probably going to lose. The military situation looks bad. Bismarck is going to roll right over them. But here's the thing about France. The economy is diversified. They've got agriculture, manufacturing, trade. They've got a solid tax collection system. They've got national wealth beyond just their military. Even if France loses the war, even if it's a total disaster, they'll still be able to collect taxes. They'll still have an economy. They'll still be able to repay debts. It might take longer. They might need to raise taxes, but they can pay. That's what matters. That's the bet. Through his syndicate, Junius raises over £10 million for the French army. That's a massive loan, and he does something else that's crucial. As an American banker, he gives France access to American weapons. The French can buy guns, ammunition, supplies from America and ship them over. This is huge because Britain and Prussia are allied, so France can't easily buy British weapons. American suppliers are their best option. The war kicks off and it goes exactly how the Rothschilds predicted. Germany wins decisively, completely. It's not even close. The war ends with the Treaty of Frankfurt in 1871. France loses territory. Germany gets Alsace-Lorraine. The German Empire gets proclaimed at the Palace of Versailles, which is basically the ultimate power move. We just beat you so bad we're declaring our empire in your palace. At Versailles, in the Hall of Mirrors, maximum humiliation. France is defeated, occupied, and forced to pay massive reparations to Germany. It's a disaster. Everyone who passed on lending to France is feeling pretty smart right now. They avoided a terrible investment. Good call, right? Except France doesn't default on Junius Morgan's loan. That's the crazy part. Bismarck predicted they would. Most people assumed they would. How's a defeated nation going to pay back millions of pounds when they're also paying reparations to Germany? It should be impossible. But Morgan called it right. France raises taxes, they sell some assets, they squeeze their economy, and in 1873, just 2 years after losing the war, they prepay the bonds. They pay back the entire loan early, with interest. Junius Morgan walks away with £1.5 million in profit. From a deal everyone else thought was insane, from a loan that all the smart money passed on. He made a fortune by seeing what the Rothschilds missed, by asking the right question instead of the obvious question. This changes everything. The House of Morgan is now a major player in international finance. They're competing with the Rothschilds. They're taking deals the Rothschilds won't touch and making them pay off. Word spreads fast in banking circles. Morgan isn't just some American upstart. He's legitimate. He's got capital, connections, and most dangerous of all, he's got guts. The balance of power is shifting. For decades, if you needed major financing, you went to the Rothschilds. Now there's another option. Now there's competition. And competition means the Rothschilds can't charge whatever they want anymore, can't pick and choose deals as easily, can't assume they'll always be the first call. While Junius is building his empire, the Rothschilds are dealing with their own transition. James Rothschild dies in 1868. He held the family together after Nathan's death. He pushed them into railroads and kept them dominant. Now he's gone too. And the younger generations, the grandchildren of Mayer Amschel, they're different. They're not as unified, not as hungry. They grew up rich. They didn't build this empire from nothing. They inherited it. And that changes your relationship with money, changes your drive. Some of them are more interested in art and culture than banking. Some want to invest in exotic ventures rather than stick to traditional finance. The tight family bond that Mayer Amschel insisted on is starting to fray. Not breaking, but loosening. The banking houses are becoming more independent, more focused on their individual markets than on the collective family strategy. The Rothschilds start looking beyond Europe. They need new opportunities, new markets. They invest heavily overseas. A big chunk of their portfolio goes to Egypt, financing infrastructure projects. They put money into Indian railroads. These are huge investments in growing markets. The kind of moves that could pay off massively if they work out. But these investments are also risky. You're dealing with governments that are less stable, projects that are harder to oversee from Europe, currency fluctuations, political instability, colonial powers shifting. There are a lot of variables, a lot of ways things can go wrong. What the Rothschilds really need, what could get them back to their past dominance, is a bigger marketplace, a place with more money moving around than anywhere they currently operate, a new financial centre that's emerging to rival or even surpass London. And across the Atlantic, exactly that kind of place is taking shape. America is growing fast, really fast. From the 1850s to the 1870s, the country is exploding. The Industrial Revolution hits America like a freight train. Westward expansion opens up massive territories. The Transcontinental Railroad gets completed in 1869, connecting the East Coast to the West Coast. Suddenly, you can move goods and people across the entire continent. Industrialists are emerging who make the European nobility look poor. Cornelius Vanderbilt dominates railroads. Andrew Carnegie is building a steel empire. John D. Rockefeller creates Standard Oil and basically monopolizes the entire petroleum industry. These guys are creating fortunes that would make even the Rothschilds pause. The American economy is becoming the biggest in the world. New organizational structures, new ways of doing business, new industries. It's chaotic and wild and full of opportunity. And the Rothschilds, who've been dismissing America as a land of madmen for years, are starting to realize they missed something big. They see the House of Morgan succeeding. They see Wall Street emerging as a financial centre that could rival London. They realise America is where the action is moving, where the next century of wealth will be built. They need to get in. They need to find opportunities. They need to make up for lost time. And the perfect opportunity is about to present itself, not in a boom, but in a crash, not in success, but in disaster, because that's when the biggest opportunities appear, when there's blood in the streets, as the saying goes. When everyone else is panicking and selling, that's when smart money buys. For America, that day arrives on May 9th, 1893, and it's going to be bad. Really, really bad. The railroad boom in America had been going strong for decades. Everyone wanted in. Investors were throwing money at railroad companies like they were handing out candy. New lines were being built everywhere, connecting cities that didn't need connecting, running parallel to existing routes, just building for the sake of building. It was a bubble. Everyone could see it was a bubble, but nobody wanted to admit it because everyone was making too much money, until suddenly they weren't. May 9th, 1893, the whole thing collapses. Not slowly, not gradually, just boom, gone. Railroad companies start going bankrupt, one after another, like dominoes falling. The entire industry, which had been the backbone of American growth, just implodes. Banks that lent money to railroads suddenly have worthless paper. Investors who bought railroad stocks watch their portfolios evaporate. Companies that supplied railroads lose their biggest customers overnight. This triggers one of the worst depressions in American history, the Panic of 1893. People lose jobs, businesses close, banks fail. It's a total mess, and everyone's looking to the government to do something, fix it, make it better. Isn't that what governments are for? President Grover Cleveland has different ideas. He's absolutely determined to maintain the gold standard. That's his thing, his line in the sand. The US dollar is convertible to gold at a fixed rate, and that's not changing, no matter what. You got to understand the context here. Back in the 1890s, the US dollar wasn't the global currency. That was the British pound. Britain had the world's dominant economy, and the pound was what everyone used for international trade. If America wanted to be taken seriously, if it wanted to attract foreign investment and be seen as a real player on the world stage, it needed to prove its currency was solid, backed by gold, trustworthy. Cleveland believes that maintaining gold convertibility is more important than anything else, more important than helping the economy recover, more important than bailing out failed businesses, more important than unemployment or suffering. If the dollar loses its gold backing, America loses its credibility. That's his thinking, so he refuses to do expansionary fiscal policy. No tax cuts, no increased government spending, no stimulus, nothing that might threaten the gold reserves. Which would be fine except for one tiny problem. The government is running dangerously low on gold. People are panicking and converting their dollars to gold because they don't trust the currency anymore. And every day, more gold leaves the treasury. At the rate things are going, the government is maybe days away from running out completely. If that happens, the gold standard collapses, the dollar collapses, American credibility on the world stage, gone, foreign investment, gone. It would be a disaster that makes the current depression look mild. Cleveland needs help. Fast. He calls on J. Pierpont Morgan, Junius's son, the next generation of the Morgan banking dynasty. Junius died a few years earlier in a traffic accident, tragic and random, and now J.P. Morgan is running the show. And if you thought Junius was impressive, J.P. is on another level. J.P. Morgan looks at the situation and understands immediately how bad this is. The government is about to default on the gold standard. That would be catastrophic for America. And honestly, it would be pretty bad for the House of Morgan too, since their entire business model depends on America being financially stable. If the country goes down, they go down with it. But solving this problem requires gold. A lot of gold. More gold than the US government has access to. More gold than Morgan can easily acquire through normal channels. He needs someone with massive gold reserves. Someone who's been accumulating gold for decades. Someone with operations around the world who can move gold quickly. He needs the Rothschilds. For the last 30 years, while Morgan was building his American empire, the Rothschilds have been quietly investing in gold and silver mining operations all over the world, South Africa, South America. Wherever there are mines producing precious metals, the Rothschilds have been buying stakes. Their gold holdings are enormous, way bigger than any government's. And they've been using their influence to push countries toward adopting the gold standard because it makes their gold holdings more valuable. J.P. Morgan reaches out to the Rothschilds. Here's the situation. Here's what we need. Can you help? The Rothschilds look at this and see a perfect opportunity. They get to help stabilize America, which is good for their other American investments. They get to establish a relationship with the US government, which opens doors for future business, and they get paid handsomely for the service. Win-win-win. Morgan arranges to issue $65 million in government bonds. That's the funding mechanism. The government is essentially borrowing money from the public. Morgan takes those bonds and uses the money to negotiate with the Rothschilds. He buys 3.5 million ounces of gold. That's a staggering amount. We're talking tons and tons of physical gold that has to be transported across the Atlantic. Now here's why banks loved doing business with governments back then. Still do, actually. Governments are reliable borrowers. They pay back their debts because they can always collect more taxes. They're not going to go bankrupt and disappear. They might be slow payers sometimes, but they pay. That makes them low-risk, high-reward clients, the kind of customers every bank wants. The collaboration between Morgan and Rothschild on this deal creates one of the most sought-after investments anyone's seen. When the gold bonds go on sale to the public, they sell out in 30 minutes. 30 minutes. People are literally fighting to buy these bonds. The confidence in the US government backed by Morgan and Rothschild gold is that strong. The crisis gets resolved, the gold standard holds, the dollar remains convertible, American credibility stays intact. Cleveland looks like a genius for sticking to his principles, even though he basically got saved by two banking families. Morgan and the Rothschilds both make huge profits and cement their positions as the two most powerful financial institutions in the world. And America takes its place on the world stage as a legitimate economic superpower, not just a big country with potential, an actual empire, a rival to Britain, a force that will dominate the 20th century. The Rothschilds successfully expanded their business into America. They've got connections now. They've proven they can operate at the highest levels of American finance, but they're still based in Europe, still more focused on European markets than American ones. And that's going to be a problem because Europe is heading towards something that will make all previous wars look like practice runs. By the early 1900s, you can feel the tension building across Europe. It's like watching a pot about to boil over. You've got imperial rivalries. Britain wants to maintain its empire. Germany wants to build one. France wants revenge for losing to Germany. Austria-Hungary is barely holding itself together. Everyone's building up their militaries. Everyone's forming alliances. Everyone's waiting for someone else to make the first move. The Rothschilds, who've been profiting from European conflicts for a century,